Good evening. Just a couple of things to announce before we get started. Brother Don Truax will be with us on the 25th to begin a gospel meeting. Let's keep that in mind. I'm not up here to criticize our normal preaching, but he's really good. So just keep that in mind. Also like to say that Alicia, who was in a car accident, she's better, but she's still having problems related to surgery. So let's keep the McGills in mind. Also, if you haven't heard, we have 2 new grandkids. And if you ask if I'm happy and proud, maybe. John Allen was 5 pounds, 10 ounces, and Rose Joy was 6 pounds. And both the kids and mom are doing very, very well. So we'll be, Lord willing, headed up there to see them before the weekend. Very happy about that. The invitation song tonight will be number 319. The invitation will be given by Chris, and then Andrew will lead us in prayer before class.
Tonight I'll be reading from Matthew 25, starting at verse 31. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people one from another as shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. And then the king will say to those on the right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, and inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?" And the king answered them, "Truly, as I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." And then he goes on and does the whole, I was thirsty, you didn't give me drink, and so on and so forth. But I would like to focus here on verse 41, where he says, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." Hell was never created or prepared for mankind. It was only prepared for the devil and his angels. And I look at that, and then I go over to, we go over to John 3:16. "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life." And when I think about both of those, God only wants to save the world. He only wants to save mankind. And I thought it's just another way to think about, if you find yourself in hell, it's because you chose it. You chose to be there. There's only two choices: heaven or hell. And hell was never intended for mankind. So why would you choose it? Then I look at Mark 16, 15 and 16. And he said to them, "Go into the world and proclaim the gospel to all creation. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned." There's that choice again. You only got two, one or the other. So if you're subject to the invitation and you want to go to heaven, please come forward as we stand and sing.
Hear the sweet voice of Jesus say, "Come unto me, I am the way. Hearken the loving call, obey. Come, for he loves you so."
Let's pray. Our righteous Father in heaven, we are so blessed to be able to come here today and worship you, learn about you without fear, enjoy each other's company, and just all being of the same heart and mind. We're just truly blessed, Lord. We thank you so much for the cooler weather, the rain. Thank you for all our families and loved ones. We're just so blessed, Lord. We pray that we dwell on our blessings every single day. We dwell on all the good that's in life and not the bad. We continue to give praise to you, Lord, in all that we do. When we pray, we never forget your Son's sacrifice for us. We pray that we dwell on it every day and every night. Lord, please help us continue to have the strength and courage to do your good work, spread the word, and help those in need. Pray that all those who are sick or sick of the mind or sick of the body, please be with them, Father. Please give them strength. please help the world. There's a lot of evil in the world and people doing evil things. Just please help us all, help get everyone on the right track. Lord, please keep us safe, keep us strong, keep us healthy. Help us that we'll have a great rest of the night and a great rest of our lives. In Christ's name, amen.
If you're wondering if my brain is a little bit scattered tonight, it is. But we're going to do our best to finish Proverbs well. We've come a long way, and we've come to the climax. And I really believe that there is a reason that the book ends the way that it does. Now, when we talk about a proverb, if you look up on the screen, you see what the proverb is. And you could put this probably just about any way you wanted. A statement of a single fact that represents similar facts. You have something stated that you realize has an application a little bit broader than what the actual statement is. A statement is made that will apply to many different things because all these things will have that in common. Now, we emphasize also for just reading, Proverbs is something that's great to browse. If you're ever sitting there and you have just a few minutes to read and you think, there's my Bible, I'll pick it up and I'll just read something for a few minutes before I head out the door, Proverbs is a very good thing to read. I'm not saying that's the only thing you ever read, but it's good. Now, when we look at the parts, when we look at the breakdown, does anybody have a favorite section? Any of those sections stuck out as memorable to you? Pardon me? The words of Agur? The words of Agur may be the words of Lemuel for some. For some of you, it might be the words and the sayings of the wise. That's pretty memorable. If for no other reason, it's pretty short. Personally, the first 9 chapters, the first Solomonic group, that is so hard-hitting and to the point that in many ways, that's one that really captures my attention. Particularly if you're a young man or are dealing with young men. That first group is very powerful. Now, we have reached a point where we've come to the end, and we are talking about the words of Lemuel, or we should say the words of Lemuel's mother to Lemuel. Now, there are 2 things that she does not want her son into. First 9 verses, what are the 2 things that she really doesn't want her son into? Yes. Drinking and women. Don't give your strength to this. You don't be somebody who's just a two-fisted drinker, and you don't be somebody who's always out chasing women, because that ruins people. And if you have a position of high authority and responsibility, what happens? If you're a king, pretty soon you pervert judgment. Pretty soon things start going downhill. Now, none of us are kings, but think of what you know about the workplace. My dad used to put it this way: son, as soon as an employee starts having woman problems, you may as well get rid of him. And that's pretty much the truth. When you get into these kind of things, whether you're talking about being a king or running a business, things tend to go downhill. Now, he doesn't need to be out chasing. He doesn't need to be knocking them back like that. What does he need? What does his mother really want for him? And this is where sometimes I think we kind of forget the connection with verses 10 through 31 to what came previously. If you've got a son, you don't want him out leading a profligate life. What do you want him to find? You really want him to find a good wife, an excellent wife. And that brings up the question of what is an excellent wife. And one thing we also emphasized last week is we usually, when we approach this, kind of rip it away from the context and the idea of mom talking, and we look at 10 through 21 and say, this is what a woman's got to be. It's not so much this is what a woman's got to be as, guys, this is what you're looking for. This is the thing that you want when you are looking for somebody that's going to be good for you. Now, last week we got through verses 10 through 12, a good woman's attitude toward, we'll just put it that way. In verses 10 through 12, her attitude toward her husband. Now, this isn't intended to be deep or heavy or breaking it down between when he's being a wonderful husband as opposed to not a wonderful husband to somewhere in between mediocre. Generally speaking, a good woman wants what for her husband? What's she going to do for him? She's going to do him good, not evil. When you marry somebody, if you're looking for a good wife, number one, you need to be convinced that this is somebody that wants what's best for me. She's on my side, and I can trust her to act that way. The term that you would use based on Genesis chapter 2 and the creation would be what? The helper. You know, I'll create the helper. This is what we are looking for. So when we talk about the good woman, her attitude toward her husband, she does him good and not evil. And then verses 13 through 22, we launch into the work that she does. And wow. Now let me ask this to the guys. If you went through Proverbs and the rest of the Bible and came up with an idealized list of all the work a man does, do you think you'd measure up in every single point that we could put on the board? Would there be some things you'd be better at than others? You'd have strengths, you'd have weaknesses. This is an idealized list that we are looking at. Will there be strengths and weaknesses? Boy, unless you're really super mom. Okay, Bill, would you read verses 13 through 22 for us? Proverbs 31.
Girds herself
Okay, let's stop right there. Her activity. Look at the 13th verse. What does she do? She looks for wool and flax. She shops. She goes looking for stuff that's needed. I didn't expect that extreme a reaction from the audience. Is it okay for a woman to go shopping when a need exists? Yeah, the answer is that. Okay, now, when you look at that 13th verse, and works with her hands in what? In delight. Now, if you have a side margin, it'll say willingly. All right, the good woman, what is her attitude toward work? She doesn't mind working. She can get in and get things done. Now, she can definitely shop. Verse 14, she is like merchant ship. She brings her food from afar. She rises also while it is still night, gives food to her household and portions to her maidens. What else does she do? Oh, hit too many. She feeds the household. Okay, when does she get up to feed the household? Really, really early while it's still dark. She gets up and makes breakfast. Now, this is a quibble. I understand that. I remember my grandmother on the farm. She'd get up early. That's on a farm. At this time, most people lived on a what? A lot of farmers, some in the city, but a lot of farmers back then. I'm not trying to set a wake-up call. If you don't get breakfast on the table before the rooster crows, you're a bad wife. Not trying to say that. But what we are trying to say is when we look at this picture, so far we got somebody that shops to get what is needed. She gets up and feeds her household. And she gets up early to do it. The 16th verse, she considers a field and buys it. Now, this is the one that kind of blows us away when we stop and we think about it. Now, of course, everybody knows a woman can't possibly know anything about finance or real estate or anything like that. And we surely would not trust her to go out and buy a piece of real estate, would we? Evidently somebody did. You got a case here where she goes out and she considers a field and she buys it. Now, I'm not trying to say this proves that she did not even consider her husband, because major investments need to be discussed. But one thing you definitely know about this is she's not a dummy. She can look at a piece of property and know that it's actually worth something. And again, we want to emphasize something here. If you were looking at a list of things men were to do, not every man would be good at everything on that list, and possibly not every woman would be good at everything on this list. But, I've seen a couple of times, and I don't know where this arose, seen husbands die and wives not even know how to balance a checkbook. But I'm told people don't do checkbooks anymore, for the most part. Does it imply she knows something about the finance? Needs to be. She doesn't need to be in the dark, or if the husband dies, something bad is going to happen. The 19th verse, she stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hands grasp the spindle. She weaves. I think that's what that means. Or spins or weaves. Yeah, she makes the cloth and makes the clothes. And then in verse 20, she extends her hand to the poor. She stretches out her hands to the needy. Now, she's benevolent. She gives. Okay, now this, another argument about finances again. If a poor person's going by and she hands him a shekel, is that okay? Evidently. Sometimes we get into the Old Testament and we think that, boy, in the Old Testament, the Hebrews put both thumbs down on women, like that. And then in the New Testament, we take one off, but we still got one on. Well, when you look at some of these things, it makes it pretty clear that they were trusted more than you might think. There's some things going on here that when you look at that picture, this is the kind of woman you want. And it's not a case of we're working somebody to death. It's a case of, wait a minute, you can see a little bit of trust manifested in this particular person. Now, here's a question. When you look at the description, is she micromanaged by her husband? I don't see micromanagement. And when I say micromanagement, what do I mean? Don't think a thought without running it by me first. That's micromanagement. I'm going to tell them everything to think, everything to do. That really isn't the picture that we're looking at here. Now, does the husband have a right to speak? I mean, if she's going out to buy a field, can he put his 2 cents in? Definitely. If she has a habit of giving to the poor, can he say something about it? Definitely. But the question in marriage relationships is how much? What will be the determining factor concerning the give and the take that's going to be involved in this? What will be the determining factor? Pardon me? I hear somebody talking. When it starts affecting is a good answer. I'm going to try to put it in a real positive spin here. Somebody said something? Yes. Jay?
Verse 11, the heart of her husband trusted her.
How much can you trust her? If she has proven herself trustworthy, why would you not give her some leeway? Mike?
In the beginning, God put them together to be one.
Yeah.
And in order to be one, there generally have to be one purpose, thought, and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
What if the husband has such a trust that it builds confidence in her, and that confidence continues, it just grows.
Yeah.
And she becomes a woman who knows what is best for everything.
In fairness to the husband here, when you look at the text, are we looking at a mature woman or a young wife? We're looking at a mature woman. She's old enough to, actually been down the road a little and know a little something. Connie?
Because his mother is asking him to look for things like this, that tells me that there's a responsibility of her parents to teach her these things.
Yeah.
She has to have some kind of an example. You can't just expect someone to have all these things if they haven't an example.
No. You got to be shown. Most of us have to learn things. That's rhetorical. Some of these things that we're talking about right now, remember when Mirthlene and I first got married, if you say, oh, well, this is we're not talking about the young woman, we're talking about the mature woman. When they're young, only the guy knows something.
I don't think so.
Yeah, my theory about income taxes, the government doesn't care if I have exact figures, I'll just estimate. Nah, she didn't think that was a good idea. I don't know why, but it wasn't. Yes.
I was just going to say, it comes down to you being the leader of your household. You look at those things that you're good at and you delegate those things that she's good at. And then each one come together to do their parts that benefits the household the most.
Yeah. And you could take it back to the idea of running the company, if you own the company. Are there employees that you know you can trust and you give them leeway? Well, hopefully in a marital relationship over the years you develop this kind of thing where both parties have demonstrated trustworthiness. Are there ways in which a husband can show himself untrustworthy? Is it always the wife that blows all the money? Yeah, no. Kind of funny to me watching a Ken Burns documentary on Prohibition. One of the things he made clear about why Prohibition got off the ground was because that was an era where men had the tendency to get their paycheck and go straight to the bar and drink it all up before they went home. And then the family would have nothing. You know, it's not just men or not just women, but what we're concentrating on here now is what the mother wants for the son. This is the one you want to find. And this one we're looking for, I mean, she's a worker. She shops, she feeds, she invests, she makes clothes, she gives to the poor. I mean, she's got the full slate going on here. Now, trust is the key. That will determine, you know, how this actually plays out. Now, as far as the effort involved, on the far left you got the work. Now we got the amount of effort. And, you know, a little bit scary on this one. The 15th verse, she rises while it is still night and gives food to her household. Okay, she rises early. That's almost a lost art. How many people just love getting up early in the morning? The people who raise their hand, for the most part, what do you notice about them? We are older people. That's a tendency of older people to like to get up early. The converse is, what time am I going to bed tonight? About the time I get home, probably. Maybe a little later than that. But it's not common anymore for people to really love getting out of bed. And I've noticed this about young people. They really don't like getting up early because I think they stay up so late at night. And so it just doesn't happen that way. But this woman gets up early. 17th verse, she girds herself with strength and makes her arms strong. Okay, what is that? She makes her arms strong. All right, she's got a really powerful left hook. Husband better not mouth off. Bam. Is that what we're talking about? This is an effort passage. It's not a violence passage. She has the ability to get in and get the work done. She makes herself strong. She gets in and she does it. The 18th verse, she senses that her gain is good. Her lamp does not go out at night. Here's the tough part. She gets up early, and how late does she stay up? She stays up late and gets up early when there are things that have to be done. Now, staying up late is not as big a lost art as getting up early. I don't know why that is, but you know, that's just an observation. More people seem to be able to stay up late as opposed to getting up early. Yes?
No, they don't have electricity.
Say that again?
They don't have electricity when this is grid.
That is true. I hadn't thought about that. So if you're staying up late then, you know, you're burning a lamp there. You are burning the midnight oil. I'm still going to say it's late by comparison because it says late there. 17th verse, rather the 27th verse. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. All right, she looks well to the ways of her household. Yes? I haven't read that entire section. Oh, we stopped at verse 22. Let's read 22 through 31. Pick on somebody. Robert, read that for us.
Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies sashes for the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. She watches over the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates.
Okay, verse 27, back up to that now. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. She looks well to the ways of her household, which means she's paying attention to what's going on at home. This is simplistic, I know. But does somebody who is taking care of the house actually have to stop and look and think about what needs to be done once in a while? I mean, open up a cabinet, look and see if there's anything in there. Open up a drawer and see if there's anything clean inside. You have to be paying attention. It is work, and she looks well to the ways of her household. She's paying attention, and she's not idle. Now, all these verses are effort verses. If you related them to something like we've already read about, where we would normally assume we're talking about the guys. Remember the proverb about the guy's walking along and he sees a farm and the fence is broken down and there's weeds in the field and that kind of thing? That's the guy version of failure in that area. You walk along somebody's farm, you see Johnson grass out there, the fence broken down and the water's not running, dry spots in the ground. That's the guy version. What would the woman version be when you talk about the house? All right, we're not trying to be mean, honest. Because both genders have this same issue. Are there guys who don't work like they should? Yeah. Are there women who don't work like they should? Yeah. It's just there are things that we know the signs. And the women know the signs too. And it's just a case, if I have a son, which I do, if I have a son and I say, okay, here's what you got to be looking for, this is what you look for. That's the kind of effort. I mean, she's really got her eyes open to see what the house needs. And then when we go to the last part of that, the result or the impact of what we're looking at. Verse 23, her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. Oh, well, that's a wonderful compliment for the wife. She's doing all the work. He's just sitting there by the gate having a good, jolly time. Isn't he having a wonderful fella? What are we getting at here?
Reputation.
She boosts his stock. His stock's going up by virtue of the fact that he's married to her. Okay, here's an experiment. Myrtleen and I got married August the 20th, 1974. That's 48 years ago. Okay, here we go. Now, when Myrtleen married me, did her stock go up or down? Her stock didn't exactly go up by marrying me. Did my stock go up or down? I guarantee you my stock went up. And what do I mean by that, my stock went up?
That you made a good choice.
It is assumed that, if she married him, He must be okay. I'd have said a winner. Yes. Can't be all bad. Can't be too bad a loser. Pardon me? I had potential. That was it. Now, that was at age 20. I was 4 days short of 21 when we got married. So that shows you how much of a kid I was at the time. Of course, what we're looking at on the board is a little bit older, but realistically, it doesn't change. Does the behavior of a wife, the reputation of a wife, bring honor to a husband? Okay. People look at your wife, and if they know she's special, some of that rubs off on you. And most of us understand that concept. Now, and besides that, boy, it really makes your life more convenient, too. Yes?
People don't even have to know anything about your life for this to be true. Because if you have chaos in your life at home, it's just going to make it hard for you to rise to the top of your field no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
You won't rise to the top
No.
if your life behind the scenes is not making a good home for you.
Yeah. Well, that's why Dad said if he's having trouble, may as well get rid of him. Because there's going to be trouble. All right, let's look at verse 25. Strength and dignity are her clothing. And notice this next line here. She smiles at the future. Okay. She boosts his stock. She smiles at the future. Okay, strictly to the women now. Do you ever have trouble staying upbeat? Why? Why do you have trouble staying upbeat? Okay, if we just come over here, why? Overworked? Stressed? Okay, let's just ask this. Does the guy whose stock you just got through raising, does he sometimes stress you out? Sometimes. Nobody raise your hand, don't want to get personal. Is there such a thing as chemical imbalance? Yay or nay? Okay, we're just going to put issues. Maybe you got issues. I don't have any statistics on this. I don't know how it works out. Do women tend to have more issues than men do? Different kinds, different degrees, but we're wired differently. And men do have problems. They just tend to be different sometimes. Overworked, stressed out, issues, whatever. How about just the world we're living in? Okay, the world is too much for us. There's the world. So it's hard staying upbeat. Now, when you look at this particular verse, we think about this. I mean, is depression a real thing?
Yes.
Okay. All of this, really, what we're getting at, depression is a real thing. Nobody's lying about it. Nobody's, trying to negate it or blow it off or anything like that. But when you look at the 25th verse, she smiles at the future. What do you get from that? Is she upbeat? Is she downbeat? That sounds upbeat. She smiles at the future. When she looks ahead and thinks of what's coming, she smiles. Now that is making it sound like there's a woman here that she looks ahead with confidence, minimal depression. And we're not trying to say that if anybody has problems with depression, you're a wicked, evil person. We're just trying to say something that everybody knows is true. If you have a choice, I'm talking about me as an individual, if I have a choice, do I choose depression or contentment?
Contentment.
Which is the more pleasant? Contentment is much more enjoyable than depression. Pardon me? Positive attitude. The good, happy day is what you're looking for. Now, sometimes is that really hard to come by? Of all the things that we put up on the board, that, smiles at the future, may be the toughest. If you can pull that off, that is a wonderful thing. And that's the thing that you try to do. If I have a son, say, son, here's the woman you need to find. Yeah, she works. Okay. But if you can find the one that's going to be happy or confident, that's the one that you better latch on to. Y'all remember the song, if you want to be happy for the rest of your life, don't make a pretty woman your wife. Yeah, that's it. Yes.
Communication, or the lack thereof, can be the make or break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you don't talk both directions, you never know whether it's one or the other.
Yeah, we talk about what guys are better at. Are most women better talker than guys are in relationships? Yeah, I think so. That's another prejudice of mine. Guys tend to just clam up and stuff it, and women just don't. But back to the point. She boosts his stock. She smiles at the future. Try to build that attitude of, I'm going to look at the future with confidence. Now, why should this woman smile at the future? Now, number one, we're going to say she trusts in, Bill right, but we're going to put that number two. Number one, she trusts in God. At the very end, a woman who fears the Lord. Now, that's always reason number one. God's going to take care of us. Reason number one. Reason number two, she's ready for it. She has done the things that need to be done to prepare. So she can have that feeling of confidence. Now, when we say prepared, she done all the work. What about her kids? What's she done for her kids? Verse 26. She opens her mouth in wisdom, the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. Yeah, she taught her kids. She's done the things that have to be done to prepare for the future, so she can have a good, positive outlook on the future. Okay, now, the way we have stated that, for just a moment, we'll stop right there. The way we've stated that, if I'm a woman, I'm kind of intimidated by that, because that's a lot. And realistically, the women in the auditorium, when you look at that, does it kind of have the tendency to make you shrink up a little bit inside and think, wow, I don't know. I don't know if I measure up. It's not there for that purpose. We're showing the ideal. Once again, if we bring it back to the men, if we make a list of all the ideal stuff that men are going to be involved in, no man's going to be perfect in all of them either. But you throw the ideal up there. And if you are looking for a good wife, and if you're a mom giving your son advice, Do you say, son, here's what you need to do. You need to go out and find you a depressed woman who won't get up in the morning, who spends all your... Is that what you're doing? No. You're throwing the ideal out there. Yes.
So could you say maybe that these are the kinds of things that a good woman will be doing? Not that she's able or has time for all of them.
Yeah.
But those are the kinds of things that she's going to be working at because her household and her husband, that's what she's all about. She's
Yeah.
all about helping them and raising them and taking care of them. And the very ending, the husband and the children give her
Wait.
what she really needs.
Okay, let's go back to the text. What we have here in verse 28, the last point, the appreciation of the family. In verse 28, her children rise up and bless her, her husband also, and he praises her, saying, many daughters have done nobly, but you excel them all. I'm going to have to memorize that one. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the product of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. Family appreciation. The result of all this is the appreciation of the family. Now, to you ladies, does this part seem to be a little lacking to you sometimes? Maybe the appreciation doesn't quite seem to be there like you would like it to be. Yes, you may. Okay. It's a valid point. I was visiting a preacher. When I was younger, I was visiting another preacher, and he found out I was Norton Dye's son-in-law. And he made the comment to me, oh, never follow Norton Dye anyplace. Well, why? Well, he spoils the congregation. So you get in there, and they don't do anything, and you have to do all the work. He spoils them. Can you spoil a family? I suppose you can. Do they usually see that, or do they just come to accept that as part of the deal? Just part of the deal. Now, the family appreciation. This is a mature woman. Sometimes it comes later in life. Sometimes you spend a few years putting the time in, getting the stuff done, and they don't come to appreciate you later. As a testimony to this, how many of us in the audience tonight did not appreciate all that your parents did until later in life? Is that common? You see it later, what mom did, what dad did, how much they were doing for me, and I didn't even notice it because that's just what they did. After all, I'm their son. They're supposed to do that.
Scott?
Yes.
I know we're chasing this a little bit, but I've got a picture in my house, and I took my grandson over and let him look at it. And I said, you see that team of horses there? Yeah. My mother would go out and help her dad harness the team, milk the cows, do those kind of things all of a morning. Her sister, my grandmother, was basically blind. So my mother's sister would stay and help her get breakfast ready, and then the girls would go to school. But I'm just saying the difference in the women today, they can't put that kind of day in, and be out there and go, well, you can.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I noticed too that some of the guys can't put the day in that they used to put in too. It's different. Last thought though, to the point with all of us, sometimes we did not see all our parents did for us. Is it possible that the same thing is true with the family toward the mother? They don't see it till later. And with that we stop. I'm pretty convinced this section is the finish of Proverbs, and it was put there because it's important. If you're writing something and you really want to highlight the important part, you can put it at the front or you can put it at the end. The front, you got the bad woman. The end, you got the good woman. Read Haggai for next week. Thank you all.